This is the tweet that sort of got me thinking about this episode. And speaking with Yan, kind of behind the scenes and like learning about his just absolute, kind of distaste or hate for AML KYC laws. And he's, kind of understands them better than a lot of people, even a lot of Bitcoiners, I think. So knowing this, like, our co-founder CTO is really frustrated with AML KYC laws, and seeing Matt say, that we've got to, as a Bitcoin industry, start being more, vocal about the harms that are being caused and the absolute, ineffectiveness of all of these laws. So Matt tweets, for those listening, I understand that regulated companies have to comply with burdensome regulations. All I ask is they fight for user privacy as much as they fought for the right to dump unregistered securities on retail, which is a great way to put it, obviously focused on the on crypto exchanges. And then he replied to that with how many users have to be put at risk of theft, extortion, persecution, and identity theft before top industry leaders start pushing back on the dangerous and ineffective data collection policies required by our governments. The silence is deafening. I absolutely agreed, and wanted to kind of break that silence, at least on behalf of Swan today. So, Matt, well, let me kick it over to you, since you are, well-informed critic of AML, KYC, and other privacy invasive laws. Would you like to kind of set the stage, give us some context for, where these things came from and how they're being used? They're maybe to fight crime as their stated purposes, but maybe the actual intended purposes might be less publicly declared.
I mean, first of all, I would say that that tweet wasn't necessarily focused at you guys. It was more focused, like you said, on like the crypto exchanges like Coinbase and Binance and Kraken. Kraken's been pretty good about it, actually, and Gemini. And like historically, they've been fighting this long lobbying effort in terms of dumping shitcoins on retail and making sure they're not classified as securities. But they have not really, at least publicly, focused on these regulations that really harm their users and put them at risk, and discriminate against access. Like talking about free and open access to the Bitcoin network. I mean, a key aspect of Bitcoin is its permissionless nature, but obviously these on-ramps are very permissioned and restrict a lot of users. Also, you definitely had me on this show like right when Swan was launching, and we had like a very good conversation about the dangers of KYC. I think with Yan and Corey were on it. So I do commend you guys for doing more than most. And the Bitcoin only companies in general tend to have, less revenue, so less ability, less weight behind them to kind of throw against these policies. But KYC AML stands for Know Your Customer, Anti-Money Laundering. And it's the idea is it's supposed to stop criminals and it's supposed to stop money laundering. But really what is happening is criminals are able to get past these laws. They either use stolen identity information, or they actually buy identity information. There is markets that have actually been enabled by Bitcoin that allow criminals to go and buy from, developing world countries, poorer people in these countries. They'll pay them like $40 to $150 in Bitcoin, and they'll just go and do the KYC on Binance for them. So criminals are getting around this regulation. It's not actually stopping criminals. And instead, what is happening is every major Bitcoin company is being forced to keep ever-growing lists of Bitcoiners in our transaction history. That data is very difficult to secure, and it is getting leaked, it's getting shared, and it's being used against honest, law-abiding users, and it's putting them at risk.
Yan, your reaction and just your thoughts on AML KYC and like how you came to, understand that they were, useless basically, and not, and beyond that, like actually harmful.
Yeah. So my first run-in with thinking about this more deeply was actually in 2017 when Equifax got hacked. And I don't know if you guys remember. I think it was like 40 million people lost their, identity information. Things
Wasn't
like
it every adult?
or like 140 million. It was like a ton.
Yeah.
Of people. Yeah, I think maybe like 140 million. It was huge. It was that. Yeah, it was pretty much everybody in America got wrecked, and that information is out there now floating around, right? And that was the first time when I had my personal wake up call as to this. I mean, I obviously knew that there were centralized repositories of identity info all over the place, and I was always sensitive to that. But that was like a major wake up call to a lot of Americans who had first time been told, hey, like this institution, which is supposed to trust, you're supposed to trust this institution with your deepest secrets. They're the credit agency. They know everything you've ever done financially, pretty much. And what it is it's just a giant honeypot, right? So you collect all that info in one place, and it's just it's a great target for hackers to tackle, and they can spend unlimited amounts of resources doing that because the value of the information is so high that they can spend millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of attack power trying to get at it. So the best thing you could do is not have that info in the first place. Of course, the entire American system of credit is based on these agencies existing and tracking your every move. So it becomes problematic. So I think, when you look at this and you start looking at it deeper, as Matt mentioned, these laws are pretty ineffective. And I know this from two things. One is there's research out there and it's saying things like, KYC AML is stopping like 0.1% of crime, something like that. But beyond that, I know it from personal experience, as Matt mentioned, people use stolen identities, fake identities. They do that to attack exchanges, and they come to Swan, they come to other places trying to set up fake accounts, and we kill them, And so the thing is that KYC AML acts in two ways. One is it's creating this, surveillance arm of the government. They're basically using the banks as their surveillance mechanism. And you could even think about it as like, search and seizure without probable cause, right? Because they're basically assuming you're a criminal, asking you for all this information. And the reality is that most people aren't. And the criminals, they get around it anyway. So I really like this phrase that I heard from Andreas one time, Andreas Antonopoulos, who was my orange pill into Bitcoin. He said, if they do this kind of lockdowns, all it does is catch the innocent and the idiots, which is true. Like that's who gets caught. If you're a criminal with sophistication, you can get around these things very easily. But the innocent people who are coming down and trying to just buy Bitcoin for themselves privately and transact for their own purposes, now all of their repository information, all of their information is stored in the repository, and hackers can get at it very easily. So it's a very major issue. I agree.
This holiday season, give the gift of Bitcoin to your loved ones. Swan delivers your Bitcoin gift along with our world-class education and client service. Create a Bitcoin gift and wrap it with a custom message for your family and friends. Dash away with your gift. Your recipient will receive an email right away, that easy. Give the gift of generational wealth. Give Bitcoin.